Today's video is all about Pinlink, the first real-world asset tokenized DPIN marketplace, driving down costs for AI developers and creating new revenue for asset owners. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the overall value proposition, and ultimately trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And the question is Pinlink an opportunity? Guys, today we're going to be doing a deep dive. We're going to look into some of the details behind this project. Ultimately, we want to get fundamentally bullish in all of the projects that we scale into in preparation for a nice run to the upside. And we're hoping that the team has given us enough information to achieve that goal, obviously, to get bullish. We're going to be using the website, the website as the main platform to navigate the project. And as usual, we are taking a retail perspective. We're ensuring that the retail investor has all those little details, all the guidance necessary by the team to truly understand what the project is all about. And we want all the documentation nice and clear and transparent. And we're going to be using a lot of the information given by the team and so on. Okay, guys, so let's begin scraping through the website. We're going to kind of go through the website here to see what they got, and then we'll link off to different tabs and so on, and we'll be navigating through the website. So what I do like, at first glance, is the initial statement. It pretty much sums it up. Like, it does a great job. I always say, when you land to a website, it should take you no more than 10 seconds to get an idea of what it's about. Very clear, right? And what's interesting to me is that they found a very interesting way how to tie in two very, very popular narratives. And as we go through the deep dive, you'll see what I mean. Obviously, at first glance, real world assets, if you guys know what that is. And if you don't, I would highly suggest that you take a look at or research what exactly it means to tokenize a real world asset, right? A lot of the times we focus on tokenization here in the crypto space, but what about, tokenizing physical assets, or in this case, a physical infrastructure? And that's what's so important here, is because Pinlink is not decentralized or tokenizing real estate. They're tokenizing infrastructure or infrastructure components, which is obviously physical. As you can see, you have a graphics card here in the background. That is definitely a physical component that can be tokenized. And I find that to be very, very interesting, given that, there is a shortage of hardware nowadays. And not only that, the demand for hardware has increased significantly, given that we are now, in the age of AI that is very, hungry for resources. Gaming nowadays, with all the graphics implementations and all the AI also implemented into gaming, is requiring a lot of hardware capabilities. And of course, crypto mining, there's that necessity for for data mining and all of that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of capabilities here to decentralize and, obviously, like I said, tokenize an infrastructure. And then based on that concept, they have the idea of having a marketplace. Of course, there has to be a marketplace, bringing in the physical infrastructure with the people that want to buy tokens and those tokenized portions of that infrastructure. And that way you can, connect buyers with sellers within a marketplace, which obviously, guys, again, this sentence right here does provide a lot of information, which is good. Let's continue going down. What else we got? We got the about, features, benefits, roadmap, team, tokenomics. This is like a complete deep dive on their website, which you guys know I appreciate. A lot of these topics are part of what I cover every single day, every day. And not only that, every single week when I do cover deep dives, I look at a lot of these, these headings. The key features, obviously the tech is important, but as you guys know, I'm not here to cover the tech specifically, because this is not a tech channel. It's a crypto channel. It is a Web3 channel where we talk about Web3 implementations and a lot of Web3 relies on other aspects like the roadmap, the team, the tokenomics, and so on. But of course, the tech is the fundamental. So we'll touch upon it and see what's going on. Pin AI Suite optimizes resource management for high performance computing and cloud storage. So it's powered by AI. So what I'm getting from here is that they have a suite of software solutions, of course. And what it does, it helps manage the performance of the computing, of the compute, of the compute infrastructure that they have going on, including cloud storage. So rely on AI for efficiency has become a very prominent idea in the last little while. So it could be, one of the main value propositions for sure, and also one of the ways they're integrating within the AI narrative. It is only one, in my opinion, what I see right now. Fractionalization. This is where more, in my opinion, this is the more core bread and butter type of scenario here for the Pinlink, project. Fractionalized. This is key. Fractionalized ownership of DPIN assets. So what they mean by DPIN assets is the components within the infrastructure, decentralized infrastructure, physical infrastructure. So all the graphics cards and so on and so forth, any CPUs, any hard drives, any computing physical assets that are required to achieve the compute, can be fractionalized in ownership. So instead of owning one GPU, you can own a portion of a GPU if you want to think about it like that. Or instead of becoming a sole owner of an entire infrastructure, people can buy into tokens, and basically those tokens represent ownership portions of that infrastructure. So basically it's decentralizing the ownership of the infrastructure. Okay, so think about it, that more flexible revenue streams for DPIN asset owners, which comes to mind. Well, guess what? If you have some graphics cards and you want to contribute them to the network, obviously you deserve rewards. And in this case, you are able to tap into a complete revenue stream that allows you to earn based on what you provide to the network with regards to assets, physical real world assets. Okay, so DPIN tokenization, the real world tokenized DPIN model drives down costs for AI developers, which we know that AI is so hungry for processing, GPU processing, that finding ways to decrease costs for AI is a great value proposition in itself. So by them achieving this, they should achieve demand for their products and services. And in this case, quite interesting, another interesting way they're able to tap into AI, and not only AI, DPIN, real world assets. So three heavyweight narratives currently we're talking about all under one roof. So far, quite bullish, quite interesting, of course. And we've seen projects like this in the past, but again, every project that is similar has their own little value proposition and point of differentiation. And that's what we're trying to, dig out here for Pinlink. Let's continue going down how Pinlink works. Okay, this again more of a technical. You can see your DPIN asset owner. You provide a GPU or whatever the case is. In this case, they are planning to expand further into various other hardwares that we use on our daily life, CPUs and many other trinkets with regards to processing and physical infrastructure. So that is also to keep in mind. But as of now, they use GPU as a main focus. You can see GPU and DPIN service user, and as the provider of the GPU, you get the fees, and you can see the contracts and the shares and the yield bearing assets and so on. So there's a lot happening here within the overall ecosystem, but it's all centered around providing a physical asset, as you can see a GPU here under the Pinlink umbrella. So very, very cool. And then passive income for seekers. Obviously, individuals want to get a little bit of passive income once they are providing, the hardware. So good stuff. Dig into that a little bit more. I don't want to go too deep into them. Features. Tokenized DPIN marketplace. So as I mentioned, now that we get a sense of what they're trying to offer here, there has to be a place to connect, right? We need to connect the physical hardware that individuals provide with the individuals that want to use that hardware. And that's where a perfect place is a marketplace. And obviously the marketplace is a place where transactions will happen. And based on those transactions, it gives earning capabilities for Pinlink. So at the heart of the Pinlink innovation lies our DPIN RWA tokenization model. The tokenized model reduces costs for AI developers, creates more flexible monetization options for DPIN asset owners, and offers opportunities for individuals who do not own DPIN assets to earn passive income stream. Interesting stuff here. Again, a bit more here, but marketplace is where we're going to make those connections. Fractionalized, we talked about this a bit already by selling fractions of their ERC 1155s, which basically is a tokenized version of their hardware. So again, you can sell fractions of a contract, which again, each asset, physical asset, can be behind a contract. DPIN asset owners can unlock the capital needed to purchase new assets from which they can generate additional rental income, thus creating an asset accumulation flywheel. So what they're suggesting here is that, let's say you have a GPU, you get that GPU, you have your contract that's associated to the GPU. That GPU can basically you can issue fractions of that GPU of those of that contract to token holders. Token holders now buy those tokens, and because of you being the owner of the asset, the hardware itself, you are going to earn, or you're going to get some capital. You're going to be able to raise capital through selling tokens. Now, because of that, you're raising capital. And not only that, you're able to earn passively from, let's call, renting out that hardware. You will also now have raised capital that you can go and buy another GPU. It's very similar to real estate. If you think about it, it's not a different thing. We're just talking about a different asset, a different physical asset. And not only that, we're talking about something that is lower in cost and potentially allows individuals to grow a lot more rapidly within a very lucrative space. Again, AI, real world assets, and DPIN, of course. By purchasing fractions of the contract, individuals who do not own the DPIN assets gain access to a share of the revenue from these assets. So it's like a bunch of sharing of revenue. It's a way of raising capital for individuals that want to continue building and owning more physical assets. It's a win-win situation for everybody, because at the end of the day, also AI developers can use this infrastructure to gain access to cheaper AI resources. So it's like a win-win-win for everybody, which is obviously a great place. And that's where you have the need for that marketplace, because people want to trade physical assets with tokens and so on. Service user rebate model. This is a little bit interesting because sales of the tokens generate upfront capital payments, which are then invested in generative yield-bearing activities. These activities create new revenue sources for the Pinlink ecosystem that are used to offer rebates to AI developers, lowering their cost burden. So this is where a certain portion of the capital that is generated is basically used to invest in yield-bearing activities. So we're relying on some sort of mechanism here, obviously governed by the team in the foundation and so on, to deploy this generated upfront capital into something that's going to yield some revenue over time passively. And obviously their intention is to offer it the rewards, or the whatever they get in return for these yield-bearing, for the yield. Basically, they're going to offer it as rebates to the developers. Again, fueling ecosystem growth, fueling or attracting new users, and so on is possibly the main objective here. But then again, are we introducing risk by investing in yield-bearing activities? What we have to understand is that the focus here is risk to reward. If they are keeping it low risk, maybe buying some Bitcoin and trying to find ways to generate yield off that Bitcoin, or whatever the case is, even stables for that matter. There's a way to do that nowadays in the in the space, in the crypto space for sure, in DeFi. So we'll touch more on that a little bit. Bringing real world asset tokenized dynamics to the DePIN sector achieves several key benefits. So they're talking about benefits here. Increased income for asset owners. A little bit of repetition here, as you can see throughout the website. Attracting more capital, lower costs for AI devs, more income sources. Fine. I'm not going to get into that more because I feel like I'm repeating myself. Repetition is good, especially if you're going to reword things in different ways. But after a while, repetition on a website is just a waste of space, and it can just be overly redundant. Roadmap, as you can see, I look for roadmaps. They have a roadmap. Problem is that we're getting late into early 2025, which is phase 2. And a roadmap, in my opinion, of course, this is, a deep dive where I, let you know what I think. Roadmaps should give us a vision. It doesn't have to be a clear vision in the sense that it's an accurate, point in time that we expect XYZ, but at least quarterly. And given that this says early 2025, this is outdated. So where are they going next? Now, did they achieve what they need to achieve? Are they focusing on another big milestone that we should be bullish on? So in my opinion is that this roadmap is outdated and it needs to be updated as soon as possible. Having something on a website that is outdated and not giving us at least a snippet of what the future may hold, in another phase or another quarter, so on, they should be at least 1 year in advance quarterly and in explaining where their vision is and understanding, obviously with disclaimer that, milestones are visions, right? That's where they want to go. Doesn't mean that they are going to be going there, but that's where they're trying to allocate both physical and human capital into that direction. So right now I'm not sure where they're going with things, what's the next steps, what's the focus, but nonetheless at least they have their clarity here with the past and the present and so on, but where's the future? And I feel like this is still somewhat in the past, but all good anyways. Just we got to get that up to date. DePIN, I think they've met a lot of expectations already, guys. If you look at their socials, they have a lot of good relationships coming out with Tau, which is beast, Aether, which is another one that's coming out hot, that came out hot this cycle. So they gotta have a lot of good relationships that definitely make us assume that they're on proper track, right? But still, now if we look at the team, I did a bit of digging into the team. The team is fully doxed, which is great. Most of these individuals are on LinkedIn. I was able to get on LinkedIn and check them out. I read through their profiles here. I'm going to get into more of the team in a second, so we'll put this on hold a little bit. I want to go on their LinkedIn account to see what they got, and then we'll move on from there. And then the tokenomics, you see, PIN is the ticker. They have $100 million supply. Network is on Ethereum. It's ERC20, and the derivatives of that, depending on what you're doing on the network. Uniswap 80%. I don't think this is still relevant. If you look at the token distribution on the wallet, Uniswap doesn't have as much as anymore. Like really, the staking has increased. A lot of tokens are staked at the current moment. I think this needs an update. I think this was at TGE. I'm gonna just say it as it is. I think this is when the token generation event happened. This was the loadout. This was their initial deployment, and which, guys, is perfect, which is fine. We got to understand what's going on here. The Uniswap liquidity pool, so everything's on Uniswap in a decentralized exchange. Obviously risk associated to liquidity pools, but that's the way it is. And when it's out there, it's out there. Staking 10% out there for staking rewards, and centralized exchange reserves, and different exchanges want to get them listed. They have some capital to make that happen. We need that. That's a necessity, and so on. So pretty good overall. It's a fairly fair launch. Let's put it that way. If this was launch, this is a fairly fair one. It's not a fair launch, right? Because then all of it would have been to community. But we've seen in the past, and of course, I've been covering projects on a weekly basis and talking about projects significantly here on the channel. And we know that fair launch have their benefits, but they also have their drawbacks, right? So a happy balance between having some capital to grease the wheels in the market is very necessary. And unfortunately, complete fair launches don't have that, but they generate a completely decentralized token distribution, which is great, but then again, there's no grease to grease the wheels. So I kind of like this type. A fairly fair launch, in my opinion, is a healthy balance between, you know, fully backed VC, you know, projects versus a fair launch project. This is good. They have a frequently asked questions section, which I feel like is very, very useful. We talked about this. How does Pinlink work? We talked about this a little bit. So again, I just want to reiterate some of this. So Pinlink enables DPIN asset owners to connect their assets to the network, minting on a real world asset ERC 1155, which is a very flexible contract token representing the asset. AI developers rent these assets using PIN tokens with profits directed to contract tied to the ERC 1155. Assets owners can sell fraction shares of the ERC 1155 for passive income. Additionally, 20% of sales are taken as commission and invested in this generate rebates, thereby driving down costs. Remember that rebate section. They take a portion of the sales and put it into some yield-bearing assets. And that for me sounds a little bit interesting, but it adds a twist because I haven't really seen a lot of projects implement this idea, almost becoming an investment portfolio for the project in itself, and obviously for token holders, because they're basically going to be getting a portion of those rebates. So interesting. How does Pinlink innovate service user rebate model remains sustainable? So this is again one of those concerns. See, sales into low risk yield bearing activities. Key term is low risk. So maybe yield bearing on stables, you know, something that is fully backed on some sort of DeFi platform, and low risk. That has to be key, because no one, we wouldn't want to, you know, the team or you know, seeing the revenue being deployed into a high risk yield bearing activity. That's not what we want, right? The main focus for Pinlink is not to reinvest capital, is to focus on their DPIN infrastructure, which is their core competency. After that, everything they do with you know, any type of funds, it should be low risk, something that's not gonna put anything, the main core competency at risk. Absolutely not. How does the Pinlink ensure provisions and provide great quality DPIN assets? Let's see what they got here. Low latency, high reliability, scalability, energy efficiency. So you can take a look at that. Support. So they got a future. Obviously, they have a vision. Right now, they're focusing on GPU and AI, blockchain miners, and cloud computing capacity for apps and developers. It plans to expand their sector to IoT applications and wireless network capacity. So this is obviously wireless. Wireless is the future. IoT is now and the future. It's not going anywhere. And this is good that they are envisioning that the physical infrastructures are not limited only to GPUs. I know right now there's that demand, and I understand it's a lucrative place to allocate resources. But the reality is that there's so many other applications that can be used here. And of course, when we're talking about tech, we're always evolving with new solutions, both hardware and software. But hardware right now is what we're talking about based on the real world asset. So more hardware, more capabilities, more expansion of the utility of the PIN token. This is what we have to understand, is that GPUs right now, GPUs are the main utility, part of the main value proposition. And that's what's tying PIN, the token, basically to it. It's being tied to it. The more GPUs processing, the more users, the more this, more that. Great for PIN. But imagine diversifying and widening their SKUs to the point that they're able to attract a whole other marketplace or sub marketplace for other hardware. And this is where it's at, guys. So I feel like that's a good vision. I think that's future-proofing their marketing, because obviously being a Pinlink or a decentralized infrastructure, they don't want to limit themselves to just to AI. In my opinion, that's a bit of a pigeonhole, because yes, AI right now might be the craze, but who knows what it's going to be in the future, right? AI is not going anywhere. I just don't think it's going to be the only main driver of innovation forever. There's always going to be something, even if it's something second best. There's always going to be something, and based on their ideas here and diversification within their product offerings, I think that's a smart idea. What is the utility of the DPIN token? Obviously, like I mentioned, it's based on their DPIN services and infrastructure, and right now it's solely focusing on GPUs. And with the future and mining, let's talk about that. But that's also to do with GPUs, because how else do you really mine unless you're behind an ASICs or something like that? But that's not what we're getting into. The GPUs is the main focus, and later on they're going to distribute into other applications and give Pinlink or Pin the token more utility. Bonus, right? Can stake and earn share protocol revenue fees. Perfect. So there's staking capabilities, and I'll let you know there's a lot being staked at the current moment, which is pretty good to see that there's a lot of individuals focusing on the future of PIN. So the website, guys, as you can see, I would say it's one of the better websites that I've seen. And I've covered a few deep dives, guys. I'm over 100 deep dives, and I would say that this is one of the best websites that I've seen out there. Very clear, lots of information, everything you need, infographics. It's almost like a deep dive on the front cover. That's basically what you need, and that's one of the things that a lot of projects don't understand. You barely need a white paper. Speaking of white paper, let's jump right into some of it. We got here the Pinlink documentation. So again, I'm not going to go through all of it because we already discussed a lot of the details, and I don't want to be repetitious here whatsoever. It gets boring, gets out of hand. But you can see that they have a lot here to offer, okay? And they might get into a little bit more detail, which, I kind of did elaborate already with their few pointers on their website. You can see a lot of it is here, guys, what I've already said. Again, go check it out, read through it. A lot of it is here. You can see, benefits for AI development, DPIN asset owners, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so that's that. I want to see what they have here with regards to tokenomics here. And you can see that this is probably where we should spend a little bit more time. And because, of course, what's the value of Pinlink without the value of PIN, right? PIN is the token, and that's what we are trying to figure out, whether PIN as a token is worth our time, right? So Pinlink revenue comes from four sources. The platform fees, protocol takes 2% of the platform fee on service user rental fees. Okay, they take 2%. It's not a lot, but we know that they need grease for the wheels. That's fine. You, as an investor, as an individual that wants to hold the token and that is fundamentally bullish, you want that. You don't want them to say, I'm not taking anything. I'm giving it all to the stakeholders or the token holders or whatever, because that means it's you have to ask yourself, then how are they greasing the wheels? How are they getting things going? How are they running business? That's a mentality that unfortunately we've learned the hard way. Yes, we want fair launch, but it's not fair to the project to not have any grease for the wheels. You need to feed the fuel. You need to feed the fire with fuel, right? And this is the fuel. 2% is nothing, but at the same time, at least it's something. So I appreciate that they acknowledge that it's necessary. And then more fees, a 2% transaction fees taken on all of these sales. So little by little, they're taking a little bit of income, which is good from revenue. Service user rebates fund yield fees. So protocol takes 20% transaction fee on all yield generated by the service user rebate fund. So whatever happens with that fund, what we talked about, that low risk yield bearing scenario, right? They take 20% on transactions, okay? And again, that is used to fuel their economy. They want to give that back to AI developers to make it easier, to make it cheaper, to make things better for the project Pinlink. So this money is not meant for their pocket. It's meant to fuel the fire. 5% buy and sell tax. This is where things get a little bit hectic, because I've seen in previous cycle that the tax system has always been frowned upon. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to shake it, if they're able to bring it back and convince the market that a tax is fair, and maybe even that word tax is kind of like PTSD-ish, right? 5% buy and sell tax. So a tax is charged in ETH on PIN buys and sells. that for me is a little bit iffy, because it's good for Pinlink in one sense, because it makes people think twice before selling and buying, or and vice versa. So in this case, if you're holding, you won't want to sell because you don't want to pay the 5%. So it's almost like friction. Let's think about it that way. It's also friction, but it's also friction to getting in, right? So sales boost rewards to pin stakers and provide budget for operational costs. So this is one way this is another way they're raising capital. My personal opinion, to keep things a little bit liquid, I would say maybe increase the other ones to 3% and take that tax away. But again, that's my advice. That's my mindset. So be it. 70% of non-tax revenue, which is one, two, and three, is not tax revenue, are distributed to pin holders who stake their tokens into locked S pin tokens. So this is the liquid token. Once you stake, this would be a governance token or whatever the case is. They don't have governance that I can tell at the current moment, which in my opinion would be great to decentralize the autonomy of the project itself as a, let's call it what it is. It's a business, right? It's got, functioning wheels that are turning and things, and this business at the end of the day, without governance, is completely centralized. So we have to understand that that's the case in a lot of new projects. So maybe in the future, governance can be a bigger part of what they got going on. Let's keep on going. Revenue from buy and sell tax plus remaining 30% of the platform revenue are transferred to the protocol treasury to fund operational costs. All revenue generated from the protocol owned DPIN asset is held by the protocol to fund further asset purchases. So you can see that they're trying to, gain rewards and have that revenue stream, but also put it back in as fuel. So remember, you need fuel for a fire to burn strong. So at least they acknowledge that. So kudos to them. That's necessary. So more tokenomics in the sense, we kind of touched upon this. I'm not going to get into it a little bit more. So remember what I said, it's an ERC token or a derivative of it. Real world assets on Pinlink will be registered by ERC 1155 tokens, and then PIN tokens will be standard ERC 20. So they're totally embracing the ERC scenario, which is the Ethereum contracts, right? EVM. So this, I believe, is early. We talked about this, the 80-10-10 distribution. I think this was that TGE. And I think right now what we're seeing is a lot of this vested over 24 months. They've already been out there a little bit. So you can imagine that some of these tokens are all in circulation, or most of them are in circulation. Particularly, the supply reserve for Pinlink Treasury must be growing. It must be doing something there, fluctuating. They got to get some action happening. So regardless, it's all pretty, like I said, fairly fair launch. So with that being said, there's not that much concern with distribution or even the vesting schedule. It's only 10%. Right, invested over 24 months. So if you look at consider the math, it's not that concerning, right? So from a tokenomics perspective, that's a bonus, right? It's not like it's a huge portion that's going to be vested in the next little while. So not bad. Let's continue. So from a tokenomics perspective, there's not too much to worry about because of that. It's a fairly fair launch. And that's about it, guys. You can see there's a little bit more. If you're into more of the technical side of things, hold on, let's see. They got a white paper that's very technical. Again, go check that out. We got this, which is the staking platform. Sorry, guys, let me just refresh this. You can see that the staking is increasing to 20 million total stake at the current moment, which is savage, which is pretty good. And as it's increasing, why not? Of the supply, again, it's 20%. Pretty big, that's a pretty healthy amount for such a small project. Again, fairly fair launch means that a lot of people bought and are staking, and it's the concept of staking is almost like taking tokens out of circulation. However, it's not really. A lot of projects, a lot of teams want to sell it that way. I understand that staking, some have terms which you have to leave it there for a certain amount of time, which is things of the past. Some of them have like a period of which you have to wait in order to get your tokens liquid, which usually is about a week or two, depending on, again, the project you're talking about. But generally speaking, guys, staking nowadays is not really should be considered something that takes tokens out of circulation. It's not really the case. Okay, so this is a good sentiment indicator. The current sentiment is it is much more lucrative to keep your tokens staked. As you can see, it's increasing, then keep them liquid, in the sense that they're just there ready to be traded or sold or whatever the case is. So not bad whatsoever. I appreciate that. Let me refresh this. I had this ready to go. I don't know why everything's refreshing here. This is their link tree. They got a lot of good information here. I appreciate that. This is a very useful tool to get a lot of their links out there. Go check them out. They got TikTok. They got different things, documentation, Medium pages, and so on. They're audited, so they got their audited links. Again, lots of good audits are necessary, guys, nowadays. It's a staple, and to see 3 of them here is great. I'm happy to see that. Their Etherscan link, so you can go check out their on-chain transactions, the chart, okay, website, Telegram. They're on Telegram. They don't have a Discord. Very unfortunate. Because Discord, in my opinion, is like way better than Telegram. You know, an individual that's here on the socials on a daily basis, and I see the value in Telegram, no doubt, as a quick solution for communication. But if you're there to create a strong community, Discord, it can't be beat. So speaking of their Medium page and their blogs, let's jump right into the socials just a little bit here. So they got a complete a blog here, but you can see the last time they posted was in December 28th, 2024. It kind of bothers me given that it's a fairly outdated post. It seems like the Medium page has been slightly abandoned. I would like to see this up to date and so on, and I'm seeing this as a consistent thing across the space. I think a lot of individuals jumped on, a lot of teams jumped on the Medium bandwagon when Medium was doing, a lot of people were using Medium and still do use Medium. The thing is, a lot of teams have been abandoning their efforts on Medium, which is sad because ultimately Medium does help for SEO and obviously, giving out information to holders and reading material, learning material, whatever the case is. It's a great way to connect with audience. So I don't really like the fact that this is unmanned that way. And their other socials are great. Like if you go on their X, you can see that they got 28,000 followers. Remember, it's a very, very small project. It's new. Its market cap is small, as I mentioned. Again, what was its market cap? I totally forgot at the current moment. Its market cap is $56 million market cap, which means, guys, it's a very small market cap. It's got a lot of upside potential. Let's say, with the same time, a lot of risk, but you can see that based on its engagement, only 26,000 followers. It's very, very young. Now, as we can go down, as you can see, they have a product launch. The Pinlink USDC shop is now live. We're delighted to announce that the Pinlink USDC shop is now live. You can start buying fractional shares of revenue outputs for enterprise grade mining operations. Interesting stuff, because we have to think about, again, what is the core value proposition of Pinlink? It is a DePIN infrastructure that specializes in tokenizing real world assets, right? And in this case, it's tokenizing mining operations. So if you want to become or gain access to a mining revenue stream, you don't have to start being a miner yourself. You can just buy tokens, right? And in this case, you buy tokens and you start earning wrapped Bitcoin for paying, and you pay in USDC and you earn wrapped Bitcoin. Interesting stuff, right? They're definitely connecting individuals here in these marketplaces. Pinlink, big things coming up, and you can see there was one. The hash link is great. Testing begins. There was one with Tau that's trending. A lot of people talking about it. I do have this right here. Or is it? Is it this one? Pinlink, hash link. Yeah, I had it saved here for you. But BTC mining, tokenized, and simplifying. That's what I just discussed with you. But if you keep on going, you can see that one of the they're tapping into the Tau ecosystem, which is quite bullish because we know that Tau is a beast out here, one of the most talked about and yeah, one of the more popular infrastructures out there, and obviously Aether. I'm totally not seeing it right now. Look at this, guys. Breaking real world. The real world asset market is surging. We know that it's a very hot narrative, so you got to keep that in mind. Pinlink entering the Tau ecosystem. You already know about our plans to offer the first real world asset backed BTC Fi yield with Hashlink coming out this month. Guys, this is one of their major value propositions as well, you know. But if we told you that we were working on real world backed Tau product, look at this. Great stuff. Tau, backed by Tau. Interesting stuff for people that are interested in DePIN and AI altogether. So their socials are on point. I like their socials. Obviously, it's a small little community, but it seems good, right? I'm just more concerned about their engagement, and their engagement, given their size, is strong. Like 200-300 likes for each post. That's savage. That's pretty good, guys. I've seen communities like 10 times the size can't even get this. So that means that these guys are crazy engaged and have a lot of power. And from a social perspective, that's very, very healthy, as long as these, all this engagement is genuine. Then we're fine. We're all good. This is great. What else do we got here? Let's take a look at they got a GitHub, which is interesting, but I don't see anything happening. They got people, they got different links, packages, projects. I'm not sure what's going on there. This organization had no public repositories. I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not a big, I don't usually include GitHubs in my deep dives, but in this case, some individuals referred to it, and I went to go look, and there's nothing there. I'm a bit confused on Etherscan. Let's take a look at what's going on. Holders are increasing slowly, as you can see. If we go to holders right here, we can see the distribution. We got Pinlink staking 28%, almost $20 million, like I mentioned, being staked right now. The largest amount right now is all being staked. That's healthy. And then the treasury is about 7% currently. Again, the treasuries, they're trying to create revenue and all that. So to make those, the grease for the wheels move. MEXC, they have liquidity everywhere, as you can see. And that's great. And the token distribution on the wallets is healthy. As you can see, it's not that bad. If we get into the actual visuals, is this the visual right here? Yeah, here we go. This is the 28%, as I mentioned, on staking, and this is the others, small amounts, shifted across, amalgamated, and then you have the treasury. And the treasury is very transparent, and this one right here is on MEXC, liquidity for MEXC, and so on. So you can see that it's not bad whatsoever. I'm not too worried about concentrated liquidity on a particular wallet. Okay, so that's that. Not bad there. We covered this. Let's take a look at the team. Let's see what's going on with the team. I liked what they had on their website. Very transparent, but using LinkedIn gives me an opportunity to kind of see their actual interactions with other individuals within the space, and to see what kind of connections, because here you have a bit of accountability, right? If you're going to say something, you'll have some accountability. So I put a lot of value in LinkedIn, and it's a small team. They only got 7 associates at the current moment, all right, and these are the ones that are published here. I think that, small, young, some talent, no doubt, fresh talent, some that, you kind of look into, like, for example, this dude right here, Talal, creative and motivated operational expert, co-founder. He's a co-founder, right, for Pinlink. But then you go down and you start to see where his experience comes. Assisted in directing and selecting top furniture pieces. So some sort of, living furniture, Versace, Fendi furniture. I'm not sure where that comes from, but that's that. And then account executive, blogs, newsletters, and so on. So what I'm trying to do here is trying to figure out where does the crypto come in the Web3. And then you have Bachelor of Arts, Management and Operations. Is a business, so on. Okay, maybe his thing here is that he's an enthusiast. He's an enthusiast for crypto mining. It could be very possible. Seems like that's what the case is. But again, no real strong background that I can see here. It is what it is, guys. It is what it is. And he seems young. Maybe lots of talent starts off young. Let's put it that way. Speculation is key in this space. We go Adam. This dude right here. We see blockchain consultant. He's a consultant, self-employed. He's involved here. You can see an innovative, results-driven professional, 7+ years experience in marketing and business development across travel, entertainment, and technology sectors. So it's a little bit of everything. Now leading business development growth at Pinlink. Okay, so he's a jack of all trades within growth and development for business. Okay, interesting, necessary, I guess, for sure. Not completely specialized within the Web3 or even tech, but still, viable. Previously scaled digital marketing agency. Okay, managing operations and strategic growth, led multi-million-dollar projects, BNB, ETH, Polygon, and AVAX. So basically dollar raises for projects. That he's there for raise capital and marketing and so on. And you can see that he does name drop a few chains over here. But again, he seems very young, career-wise, and in addition, even probably age-wise. But that's not the case. That's not the concern. The concern is the track record. I'm not sure, and we can go on the website and take what he says for face value. But I still feel like this is a very young team so far as I'm going through this. Okay, and business-oriented for sure. Now, where does the tech come in? Where does the individual that's backing the technology and I believe that this is the man behind the tech. Okay, so Lucas, technology leader and architect, MIT Technology Review, innovators under 35. I think this is where the major or the main talent comes in with regards to blockchain and its innovations here for Pinlink. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more focus here because, as you can see, there is a little bit more concentrated value right here. Chief architect, Pinlink, full-time, infrastructure and security. We have 5-chain full-time. So you see Web3, crypto, AI, building, okay, and so on. Full-time VP of engineering, co-founder, CTO, Singapore, things like that, software development. And then you go down, university, PhD in computational and applied mathematics. You can't blame me for saying this. Warsaw University, Poland, Masters of Science, computing in business and economics. This is where, what else could we say? Licensed AWS certified solution architect. Guys, I think this is where we can put a little bit of the emphasis of the value of the team. That's all I'm saying. Okay, more than that, fine. They're very young. They could be very great and very talented. But this is, in my opinion, it's a lot more clear cut where the value is. Okay, so that's that. Let's hope that the team could work together. Hopefully, the young team flourishes and gets this thing going, because really, youth is great. Obviously, new talent and the aggression that brings the aggression that comes with new careers or in building of the career is crazy. Great opportunities regardless. Okay, so good stuff here. Overall, nice, clean, clear cut, deep dive, guys. Very clean, and I give the documentation A+, 10 out of 10, and the website 10 out of 10. And as you guys know, I do release a infographic summarizing the project, and I'm going to release this all over the socials. So if you want that, and it's quite interesting to see such a young project, well packaged, and it seems like the packaging gives me that idea that product is ready and it's fit for market, which is what I usually, when I see these young projects, I don't feel that confident with. So that means that the business side of things is actually being taken care of very well. And I appreciate that, right? So though they're young, the business side of things, They're doing a great job. Oops, sorry guys. This I just clicked the wrong. Where am I going with this? This is all other deep dives. Here we go. Pinlink right here. Sorry. So 7 out of 10 for ecosystem. We got a lot happening here. Real world asset DPIN with mining rigs and plans to expand. We talked about that. User rebate fund. Very interesting on how that's going to work. It's a mechanism within their infrastructure where they're going to get some revenue, and they're going to redistribute that revenue into some bearing assets, low risk ones for sure, and then real world asset tokenized DPIN platform, which they're obviously one of their core competencies. Look, I feel like their ecosystem could have a little bit more, and this is why there's growth potential. If I gave it a 10 out of 10, that means that they're matured. No, this is not the case, guys. We're talking a small market cap. We're talking about a lot more upside potential for ecosystem growth, which means that ultimately more upside potential for market cap. Okay, so you got to understand, low ratings is sometimes an opportunity. And this is where it gets very difficult for me to actually show its value, because I'm giving it a low rating because it's necessary to realize that there's still room for growth here, which means there's more room for gains, right? Think about it. It's not always negative. Utility, access to platform. Okay, staking, support fractionalized real world rentals and sales, and very other utility. I would love to see some governance happening. Okay, something happening with that, because as a DPIN infrastructure and with a decentralized infrastructure, decentralized token distribution, wouldn't it be nice to have some decentralization within the organization? The trifecta of decentralization. That's what I would like to see. Okay, so far I would like to see the utility and basically integrate a bit of decentralization. Clear roadmap with milestones met. However, they need to update that thing. It's on the websites front, right, and center, but it's not up to date. I feel like it would be nice. They've been doing everything perfectly. Continue with that same confidence to call your shots. Tell us where you're going next. Let us know where we should see the team allocating their capitals, or if we agree or disagree. Let's see where you're going with things. And this is why this is why DAOs are great to degrees, because we community votes and they dictate the direction, right, where things are going for the most part, or depending on how much influence the DAO has, it should dictate a certain degree of where the team and the project is going. Speaking of the team, the core team members seem new to the industry, or maybe not specialized to the industry, or maybe just young in general. I just feel like the engineering talent is clear. There's that one dude right there that definitely, one of the founders, definitely has the backing to support the tech aspect of things. What we're speculating on is the business side of things. But I'll just tell you this, from the business and marketing side of things, it's one of the best websites that I've seen out there. Okay, so, and documentation is clear, one of the best that I've seen. So with that being said, there's value there. Okay, there's definitely value there. Speculation is also there. We got to be real, but the value is there. I just feel like from a social perspective, they need to have a Discord. And Telegram, although it's good, it just becomes a mess, a complete mess out there. When there's too many people on a Telegram, it becomes a disaster. And if you start making those what are they called? I don't even know what they're called on Telegram, but you can make a whole page with a bunch of different rooms and all of that. It just becomes a mess. Whereas Discord is very organized, very clear. There's a lot of ways to modify and create bots, and it just creates a much better place to have discussions and learn and have Discord, plain and simple. So again, it's a choice. Obviously, different teams have different objectives, but the Telegram is a great place as of now, because the mod there, he's willing, or she is willing to answer any questions that you may have. I was on the Telegram. I had a few questions. The mod was very helpful. Very helpful, but not only that, had a great demeanor about willing to answer questions. So bonus right there. And their engagements on X is on point. 8 out of 10 for sure. On point engagement for such a small amount followers, again under 30K, to have, that amount of engagement is pretty good, because I've seen way bigger accounts with much less engagement. So interesting stuff. I think that a Discord, when we start to see a lot of retail in this space and it goes nuts, it could be that they're going to see that Discord is going to add much more value than Telegram. Okay, that's my opinion. Again, not financial advice, but that's my opinion. Tokenomics, guys, it's a fairly fair launch. I'm going to summarize that very quick. The only risk, let's say, of dilution is that 10% reserved for staking rewards investing over 24 months, which is not a concern any longer. And then obviously 10% in treasury, which we know that's going to fluctuate based on earnings, which again shouldn't be that concerning, because right now the fluctuation, and they're spending more than they're earning, and that's normal in a new launch. So tokenomics for me is 9 out of 10. It's on point. Nothing to worry about there. Relationships, they got great relationships. Okay, they got a lot happening. Aether, Akash, Fetch, Oasis, and this one with BitTensor, Tau, the subnet nodes are coming to Pinlink and tokenizing them. Guys, 10 out of 10. Okay, they're basically partnering with some of their competition, let's say. Not partnering. Let's rephrase that. They're creating relationships with some of their competition, that means they don't consider them competition. It's a collaboration, and those are key relationships because they're strategic, right? So 10 out of 10 for them realizing and knowing which lane they're in, and using and creating relationships that are strategic. So bonus there, 10 out of 10. And liquidity out there's not much, guys. It's only listed on Mexi. Okay, it's a bigger exchange nowadays. Gate, Bing, and LBank, and a few other little ones. Guys, exchange listings will cause a lot more increase in value here. So a lot of people trade exchange listings. This means that there's a lot more that could potentially come, all the way from KuCoin and so many others, and then all the way to the end with Binance and Coinbase. So there's a lot of potential here to gain that exposure, that liquidity across multiple other centralized exchanges, which means that we could see some more upside potential with regards to that. Good stuff there. Overall, guys, as its market cap, it's a small market cap, like I mentioned, right around 57 million. Excuse the numbers, because again, the market has been a bit volatile in the last little while, and I'm not being able to keep up with the numbers. The infographic could be slightly outdated just a bit within 24 hours, but it's still very valid. At the end of the day, the trading volume is quite low, and that is very relevant, because you can see that trading volume is hard to achieve without liquidity on various exchanges, and especially large exchanges that people trade on. So we need some exchange listings. Okay, supply, 80 million is out there out of the 100 million. As I mentioned, fully diluted valuation is almost there, and which means that we don't have so much risk of dilution. And you can see, and I had to put this out there, is that the max supply is at about 100 million, but the total right now is at about 99.86 million, which means that there is a burn out there. Now I'm waiting to see if I can get some more information about the burn mechanism, but nonetheless, there is a burn that happened based on transactions and so on, and I want to get a little bit more info about that one as things progress, because we know that Pinlink is still progressing, but still interesting stuff with regards to what Pinlink is doing and what it's trying to achieve. And as you guys know, I support complete decentralization and the efforts required to decentralize a protocol, because ultimately that's what's going to make the difference between Web3 and Web2 solutions. And as you can see, Pinlink is trying, to stay within its lane, which is a Web3 solution. All right, so let's zoom in here and let's see what they got. We got here just a quick verdict, guys. There's not so much detail because the website did so great. And to be honest, we're in speculative mode here when we talk about Pin. Okay, we're in very speculative mode. So that's why I'm being very, very hesitant with saying, 10 out of 10 to the moon, right? It's very possible that, this thing does very, very well, but we got to be modest, because being modest is being safe. And ultimately, we know that the space could be very, very risky. DePIN, real world assets, AI infrastructure, hot narratives. Okay, very hot narratives. And I just want to say that, their approach, even with their communications and marketing and so on, is decent. So what I like about here is that although it is small, it is behaving like a big project and is doing everything that it needs to do to become a big project. Guys, I don't know what else to say, but it is what it is. DPIN and real world assets and AI obviously very trending narratives. Wallet distribution is healthy. More clarity on tokenomics would be useful, particularly with the burn aspect of things. I couldn't find anything. The mod was helpful. He did guide me in a direction, but the direction went straight to a dead end, which for me is not. It's from a retail perspective. If I cannot find my way, that means the average retailer won't either. And from that perspective, that's where I bring value in these deep dives. I let you know that friction, to gain access to knowledge is not good. So we need some more clarity with regards to the burn, maybe a dedicated section on the white paper, on the Git book, and so on and so forth. And don't rely completely on socials to give out that information. It should be written on your Git book. Git books have benefits, which is that it's very easy to update, almost instant. So take the time, do your thing, continue being consistent with your communication, because right now that, in my opinion, is what Pinlink is doing absolutely great at. Okay, simplicity is key, and they've kept it simple, easy to understand, to the point that even some of their documentation seems repetitive, because they're like, it's so simple to understand that you feel like you're reading the same thing over and over. It's very simple, and the simplicity of their infrastructure and their idea and their core competency will make it easy to scale and expand laterally, which is what they have in their roadmap. They don't only want to include GPUs within their infrastructure; they want other aspects, other real world assets within, the tech space, and that will expand it laterally, but it will make it very easy because their whole thing, their whole infrastructure is simple, and it's easy to scale from that regard. So bonus, all of these things are great things that I look for in a project, and then ultimately follow through, and a roadmap does help. And as I mentioned, give me some objective of where you're going with your roadmap, so that we can maybe speculate on follow through. So Pinlink with the market cap of ATH, which is Aether is another DPIN protocol. It could be, it's considered their competitor, let's say, but they are working with them, which is great. As a DPIN infrastructure, it's totally fine to pair up with other infrastructures and get through get each other's back, and it's totally fine. At the end of the day, what we can see here is if it's going to catch up with Aether, and I'm going to tell you right now, Aether is not even the largest project out there. I just want to quickly get onto CoinGecko before we continue. If you go to CoinGecko, you can see that we have Aether right here, okay? And if you keep on going down, you got Pinlink somewhere around here, okay? Right around this. So it's got some way to go just to get back to catch up with Aether. Now, I'm not saying it's going to catch up and flip Aether, but I'm saying if fresh capital is going to be coming into this space, and I just want to quickly show you that the total market cap of the category, which is the DPIN category, is currently right around, let's say $19 billion. Just know that this is a $1 trillion industry, $3 trillion industry, almost four. What am I talking about? Like, we're going up, right? We are going to expect that this narrative will attract capital. Now, the question is, will, Pinlink attract more capital or enough capital that they will slowly start catching up with these dudes up here? Is that possible? Why not? It could happen. But let's say that they go at equal pace. And let's say that Aether and Akash and everything else shifts up, but so will Pinlink. And will Pinlink eventually get to this level, right, much higher, and then we'll see Aether much higher as well, and shift everything up, 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 up. And it's very possible, as it is a hot narrative, and it should be able to attract capital. So what I always look at is, could Pinlink reach this level? And at the current level, why not? And it all depends on how much capital we're able to pull into this market. You never know how high. Look, we got BitTensor, we got Render. These are DPIN infrastructures, not completely decentralized, not completely, as different value propositions, various little details that are different. But generally speaking, guys, this is a very small narrative as well. It's not a huge one. and it has a lot of upside potential. So interesting stuff there, guys. Go check that out. You know, do a little bit of analysis and research. At the end of the day, I can see this thing getting to about $10 if the market conditions are correct. If we see proper rotation, we see more retail, we see a little bit more total market cap increase, and even the 7 out of 10. I only reason why I'm not giving it maybe even a 9 out of 10 or something more is because of its risk and speculation, right? We got to really be understanding that it's only a 50 million, 55, $57 million market cap, which means that it's very small. You know, the team is young, and we got to make sure that, you know, we cross our T's and dot our I's and understand that risk in this space is real. Okay, so this, it could be undervalued in my opinion, maybe a little bit higher, but because of risk, we got to tame it down a little bit, and just be real. There's a couple of things that I would like to see to make things a little bit more feel safer based on risk. A roadmap is one of them. 100%. And then let's focus on exchange listing, guys, because this thing could crank if it gets listed on some major exchanges. All right, guys, so that's that. I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin. Let's see what's going on here with the Pinlink chart. We see that, you know, the market in general in the last little while has been retracing just a little bit. We can see that there's been a bit of a sell-off over the weekend, but that's not the concern. What we're looking at is big picture. Does Pinlink have the opportunity, or does it have the power to eventually start reversing here and getting to the upside? Let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Ultimately, what we really want to see is Ethereum. I hate to bring up other projects on other deep dives, but because we're talking about TA, it's very important to understand that we have to use Ethereum as the major indicator. It's super important that we do not see Ethereum dump. Okay, we want Ethereum to continue in its uptrend. We want Ethereum to continue showing strength and proving to the market that altcoins still have possible rotation. Obviously, Ethereum is dependent on Bitcoin and so on and so forth, and Bitcoin is dependent on the macro conditions, and you get the levels, right? That's the whole level of which we analyze, you know, our asset class here in the crypto space. But generally speaking, Pinlink at the current level, as long as everything else holds true, we do not want to fall below this thick yellow line. We already got the sweep, we already got the hunt with a little bit of volume, and we got back above within the structure. Once again, we did this analysis way back, guys. Hopefully you've been following me here on the channel. We've been covering Pinlink for a good while, and I scaled in right into this level. This was a very emotional level, and then we got back above. Now the question is, what do we do? Well, in my opinion, guys, this is time to DCA. What do you think these goons are doing right here? Right, there's a lot of volume happening here. You can see the increase in volume into the zone as we rose up. What do you think is happening here? Now, if we want confirmations to give us an idea of what really is happening, we want to hold a bit of support right here. We want a nice reversal structure on lower time frames, a nice you know, pivot point structure right here, maybe on the 1 hour, and then we can start reversing right into here, and then bang bang bang. Really what we want to do ultimately is break above $1. Yeah, breaking above here is important. It's going to confirm a higher high. Breaking above here is breaking above $1, which is also going to confirm another higher high. But once we start zooming out and we start really looking at big picture, what's really happening with Pinlink, the reality is we're waiting to break through this volume gap, because that's the opportunity. All of this is accumulation opportunity to buy into a project that could eventually reverse. As you can see, this was potentially accumulation, manipulation, and distribution. And if it comes to the point where it becomes complete distribution, it's very likely that we start testing range highs once again. And range highs, obviously, some people might be taking profits based on the short-term trade and all that. We might get an exchange of hands here, which would be bullish, a nice flag for a continuation. But if we eventually start breaking out of $1, it's over, guys. It's over. We're going to start to expand and risk on through this gap, right? And then from there, you know, short-term trades are very scary and dangerous. Long term, yeah, we might be speculating that we get to about $10. Who knows how high we go? But in the short term, you know, if you're going to be waiting to, you know, break this level, we could definitely retrace back to here and get you wrecked, you know, pumping into this green eventually once we break through that volume gap. So you have to understand that the times to DCA are the times where we get the pullbacks, where risk to reward ratio is at its best. Let me get rid of some of this artwork to show you again. What I'm seeing here is that the risk to reward ratio once again is very healthy. As long as we here at the bottom, we know our invalidation is right below this thick yellow line. If we fall below this thick yellow line once again, things get ugly once again. And I understand if you de-risk right here, that's fine. But once we get back above and we backtest in spring, it's time to get risk on. It's time to put a stop loss. It's time to see if we break the previous high. It's time to see if we get a proper change of character. So let me put that in here. Change of character. Okay, a change of character is a market structure shift right into here, a change of character. So a pivot point structure, we want no more lower lows and lower highs. We want a higher low and then a break of the previous high to confirm a higher high. And let's change directions. No more lower lows, no more downtrend. We want an uptrend. And if we can get that signal right into here, guys, on lower time frames, maybe drop to the 4-hour and start to look for that reversal right into here, because right now we're still dripping, looking for oversold conditions. If we can get that opportunity right into here, and then put that stop loss right into here, guys, that ultimately a stop loss below the previous low is the best. I'm going to be clear with you. A stop loss below here is the best. And you can DCA all through this, because really that's the main invalidation. If we make another lower low, forget it. This thing's going to be lower lows and lower highs, and it's going to keep downtrending, right? But in the meantime, we could still be looking for a retracement, even down to, let's say, the 786 at worst case scenario. I really don't think that's going to happen, but you get, again, I'm not a fortune teller. We just prepare for possibilities and high probability possibilities. Swing high, swing low to swing high. Golden pocket is beautiful right here, 786, 886, 1-to-1, all the way back to the previous low. I think that's a bit aggressive. I say this is a great area to DCA and invalidation down here. If we eventually get that reversal, bang, guys, this thing is going to start to fly. And if we break below, you exit, you stop yourself out, and wait for another structure to play, because right now this is the only structure that Pinlink has had in a great while. Some may even argue that it has achieved a floor price, given the point of control, good volume, and sideways price action, and overall other market conditions suggesting that Pinlink is looking good. Again, Ethereum, guys, now's the time potentially to take some risk. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.